For over 100 years, battles have raged in the air for command of the skies.
If you don't have air supremacy, you're in trouble.
Since its earliest beginnings in World War I, the airplane is the supreme weapon of the armed forces.
This was a real battle for civilization, for humanity.
It revolutionized battle and changed the ways war was fought and won.
The F-117 has obviously changed how we design aircraft and air campaigns.
War drove innovation in the skies.
What we hear from the Air Force is when the F-35 wasn't there, all others died. When F-35 was there, they reigned supreme.
Aircraft bred a new kind of hero. The fate of entire nations depended on the bravery of a handful of men.
An appreciation of the extent to which young men were willing to put their lives on the line for an ideal is something we need to remember more often than we do.
In this episode, the world's deadliest air superiority and ground attack aircraft, the top guns that rule the skies, and the tank busters that support the troops, including the smart and stealthy F-35 Lightning.
It's certainly the most advanced strike aircraft as designed in the world.
The supersonic fighter plane that dominates the skies today, the F-22 Raptor.
The F-22 is designed for clearing the skies of opponents' aircraft.
The US Navy's original Top Gun, the F-14 Tomcat.
It's obviously got a lot of Hollywood aspects to it. Air combat maneuvering is dynamic.
The invincible American Eagle, the F-15.
F-15C has never been defeated in combat.
The hard-hitting, tank-busting A-10 Warthog.
It's the greatest close air support platform that's ever been flown.
And the big American B-1 bomber that blasts all in its path.
We've been hitting anything from buildings to individual persons or moving vehicles.
In its quest to rule the skies in the 21st century, the USA has in the field today the world's top gun, the deadliest air-to-air fighter plane ever flown, the Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor. Its primary mission, to dominate the aerial battlefield.
There's one ultimate airplane. It's probably the F-22. You know, that's the plane that nothing can touch it in the air. It's just super maneuverable as well as being stealthy.
F-22 is probably the last wonderful, super, be-all, end-all, single-seat supersonic fighter.
It's used in the defense of North American airspace, where occasionally it intercepts Russian bombers coming down the coast, etc.
Powered by dual Pratt & Whitney turbofan engines with afterburners for extra thrust, the Raptor can hit a blistering supersonic speed of Mach 2. That's twice the speed of sound.
This whole F-22 is built around two monster engines and two supercomputers. And the engines, they can do super cruise.
Super cruise means the F-22 can hit top speeds of around 1,500 miles an hour and sustain it, even with a payload. Supersonic cruising allows the F-22 to be the first into a fight. And what's more, with its state-of-the-art digital interface, the Raptor can identify threats from up to 100 miles away and then hit a target up to 135 miles away. Once an enemy plane is in the Raptor's kill zone, the two connect, and they're in what pilots call the merge. This is the critical moment when the combatants lock and load and engage in battle.
Both aircraft probably destroy each other in the initial merge because modern missiles are that lethal.
So we're destroying airplanes long before they can see who's even targeting them.
What makes the F-22 an exceptional fighter is its two supercomputers.
One supercomputer's job is to do complete sensor fusion. And this thing is loaded with sensors, and it takes anything any other aircraft that talks to it sees, and it computes this into a complete picture of the battlefield. And the other supercomputer is worried about weapons platforms.
21st century air warfare really comes down to the hardware and software that's in the aircraft. The pilot now is an information manager. The stick and rudder skills are now replaced by the sensors and the software that's in the aircraft.
The F-22 is a digitally enhanced command and control center in the sky.
Air superiority is basically the primary role of air forces. Essentially, it provides that umbrella for all other air tasks to be performed, as well as operations in the land and the maritime domain.
They'll also get inputs from the mission control for what else is going on.
The F-22 pilot is also best placed to share vital information with the rest of its friendly forces in the air, on the ground, and at sea.
And depending on what the issue of the moment is, the computers will help me, just sort it all out to control tens or hundreds of aircraft.
An F-22 can then direct these forces into battle and strike the enemy as and when needed. In other words, it brings more military assets to the fight, effectively multiplying the force brought to bear on an enemy.
So it can communicate, for instance, ships and their missile systems. This creates then what they call a force multiplier.
Designed to knock out anything that dares oppose its aerial dominance, the Raptor's first combat action came nearly 10 years after it was introduced into service. But it was used as a ground attack weapon to strike armored vehicles, including tanks. On the 22nd of September 2014, US Raptors successfully struck Islamic State-held territory in and around Tishreen Dam in Syria.
The main mission for the Raptor has been Operation Inherent Resolve against ISIL in Syria, where it's been responsible for dropping 1,000-pound bombs.
As well as conventional bombs, the F-22 can carry up to 2,000 pounds of laser-guided munitions. The Raptor is also armed with one 20mm cannon fused into its right wing. In US missions over Syria, the F-22 has proved itself to be the most feared multi-role fighter of the 21st century. Deadly as a ground attack strike plane and peerless as an air superiority aircraft, America's Raptor is a Top Gun and tank buster all in one.
Speed weapons and stealthy capabilities. The F-22 is the ultimate aircraft. It's the most maneuverable. It can outfly anything in the sky. It's stealthy. It carries tremendous firepower, and as we're seeing, Syria can also be used offensively.
The F-22 Raptor and its extraordinary combat capabilities is changing the way wars are being waged.
I would say that the F-22 are absolutely rewriting the rule book on how we prosecute an air war.
The staple of 20th century warfare was the dogfight. The daring one-on-one aerial duel at the core of the fighter pilot's allure, and the stuff of Top Gun legends, could soon be a thing of the past.
In fourth generation airplanes, it was about a visual fight, getting into the turn and starting banking, Top Gun-ish.
But Top Gun is much more than mere myth. It was in fact a strategic concept conceived nearly 50 years ago in 1969 by the US Navy. It came in the wake of terrible losses for the Americans in the Vietnam War, when nearly 1,000 US aircraft were lost in combat. America's military analysts decided it was due to substandard aircraft and poorly prepared pilots. So on the 3rd of March 1969, the US Navy's Strike Fighter Tactics Instructor Program was born in Miramar, Southern California. Famously called Top Gun, the best pilots were selected and sent to the US Navy's Fighter Weapons School for aerial combat training. But before the US could dominate the aerial battlefield, they first needed to train their pilots in advanced tactical maneuvers.
Top Gun, first and foremost, was a training school to create training officers for the fleet. And they would return to the squadron in a training role, making sure that everybody was up to standards.
With enhanced pilot training underway in the 1970s, the USA next upgraded their aircraft capabilities. Led by the needs of their US Navy, they designed a carrier-based fighter plane that could dominate the skies around their battleships. The result? The emblematic fighter of the US Navy's Top Gun program, the Northrop Grumman F-14 Tomcat. The Tomcat's first flight was on the 21st of December 1970.
The purpose of the Tomcat essentially was air superiority fighter, to keep the airspace around the carrier free, to protect against threats like Bear bombers and anti-ship missiles that the Soviet Union carried back in the Cold War.
Miramar, California, USA, 1970. To counter the lethal threats of the Soviet MiGs, the US Navy initiated the Top Gun training program for its fighter pilots. At the same time, America invested heavily in developing super-fast, heavily armed, and highly maneuverable combat planes that could rule the skies. The result? The iconic fighter of the US Navy's Top Gun training program, the Northrop Grumman F-14 Tomcat.
Tomcat crews all went through Top Gun. We were ready to face whatever came our way, and Northrop Grumman built us an airplane that we could have a great deal of confidence in. You didn't feel like you were ever the underdog.
Captain McMullen served in the US Navy from 1977 until 2006, the same year that the F-14 was retired from service. He spent most of his flying time in the second seat of a Tomcat.
I was actually a radar intercept officer. I sat on the back seat of the airplane, but it was still a joy to fly. It's got a gigantic bubble canopy and tremendous visibility.
Commissioned in the wake of what were deemed US failures in the Vietnam War, the F-14 Tomcat was designed to assert America's aerial dominance by clearing the skies of Soviet MiG fighters. To help it do that, the F-14 was packed with state-of-the-art weapons.
It had a great suite of air-to-air missiles, the Sparrow and Sidewinders, radar missiles, as well as the Phoenix. She could shoot and track 6 missiles at a time.
But it was the F-14's exceptional maneuverability that made it the stuff of Top Gun legend.
The F-14 was great. It's obviously got a lot of Hollywood aspects to it. Air combat maneuvering is dynamic.
The key to the Tomcat's standout agility was that its wings could be swept backwards or forwards.
At slow speeds, the wings would come out and give you a great slow speed maneuverability, particularly for carrier approaches, efficient wing load. And then, of course, the wings back to supersonic speeds.
The first combat engagement for an F-14 Tomcat came off the coast of Libya in the Mediterranean Sea. Increasingly wary of Libyan leader Colonel Gaddafi and his intentions, the US began patrolling the Gulf of Sidra in the late 1970s. Then, on August the 19th, 1981, 2 American F-14s were on station in the Mediterranean when 2 Libyan Sukhoi Su-22s attacked. Flying at one of the American F-14s head-on, an Su-22 fired an A-2 atoll missile from less than 1,000 feet away. The US Tomcat took evasive action, and the Libyan missile missed. The American pilot then launched a Sidewinder missile and took the Libyan plane down.
In 1981 was the first time we shot down something with a Tomcat.
Hot on the heels of the F-14 came the introduction of another formidable US strike plane. Not to be outdone by the US Navy, the US Air Force initiated its very own Advanced Tactical Fighter program in the 1970s. The aim was to develop a combat plane that could dominate the aerial battlefield. Their answer? The McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle.
The F-15Cs gain and maintain air superiority in any battle space. And then we use our missiles as required with the AIM-120 and the AIM-9, and as well as a gun to execute those missions.
First flown in 1972 and still in service with the US Air Force, the F-15 Eagle has earned one critical distinction.
F-15C has never been defeated in combat.
And it has over 100 combat kills. The Major's favorite plane to fly is the Eagle.
There's no other feeling like it. I remember the first time I took off and you feel the 220 motors light with the afterburner and it pushes you through the air and you rotate, take off, and it just, you continue to accelerate as you take off. There's nothing like it and it becomes a part of you. It's very sensitive. You need just 3 fingers to fly the aircraft. And the jet does talk to you. You'll feel the soft pitter-patter on the wings as you're starting to max perform the Eagle. It talks to you. It tells you how, if you're being nice or if you need to be a little bit more dirty with her.
The F-15's extraordinary performance is down to its huge lightweight wings that cover a total area of 608 square feet. Coupled with twin Pratt & Whitney turbofan engines with afterburners, it produces more thrust than its weight. The result? A fighter that can accelerate vertically and has exceptional maneuverability. It also has a top speed of over 1,800 miles an hour, over twice the speed of sound.
It's incredible. One of the coolest things about flying the Eagle with the big wing is you're able to get super high, super fast, relatively easy, where you can get as high as 50,000 feet or even higher if needed in a combat scenario. And I've been as fast as 1.8 Mach. It's pretty cool to be that fast in the Eagle.
One of the F-15's most distinguished missions came in the NATO-led war in the heart of Europe, over former Yugoslavia and its breakaway region of Kosovo. On March the 24th, 1999, NATO forces, spearheaded by the US Air Force, launched an aerial bombing campaign in the Balkans to ensure the independence of Kosovo. Flown from bases in Italy and off the decks of Allied aircraft carriers in the Adriatic, NATO forces committed nearly 1,000 aircraft and flew over 38,000 sorties. On March the 26th, 1999, this F-15, now stationed at RAF Lakenheath in the UK, had an extraordinary encounter with 2 Serbian MiGs.
2 F-15s were executing a sweep mission in which they ended up getting 2 contacts out of Kosovo, and they ended up running an intercept.
Having intercepted the 2 Serbian MiG-29s, the American F-15s engaged.
It's another living, breathing human being in that other cockpit, and there's a little bit of reality with that when you're hitting that merge.
In the ensuing air-to-air duel, one of the US F-15s outmaneuvered and then shot down both MiG-29s. Undefeated in battle, the F-15 Eagle continues to execute the mission that it was designed for nearly 50 years ago: to rule the skies. But aircraft are still vulnerable from surface-to-air attacks. What was needed was a tough, dedicated ground attack fighter. This is the job of the tank-busting attack plane, the Fairchild Republic A-10 Thunderbolt.
The A-10 is the most heavily armed Air Force fighter plane ever in terms of the amount of ordnance it can carry, 16,000 pounds. The A-10 is really a unique aircraft. It's designed to fly low and slow, attack armored vehicles, and protect troops on the ground.
The A-10, in my opinion, is the greatest close air support platform that's ever been flown. Climbing into the cockpit of the A-10 was, for me, like climbing into my house. You know where everything is and you feel like you're one with the airplane. You have all the confidence in the world that between you and the airplane you can achieve what you need to achieve.
Built in the midst of the Cold War that pitted the USA against the USSR, the A-10 was actually built for one explicit task.
The A-10 was designed specifically to counter Soviet tanks in Europe. That's why it has a large Gatling gun in the nose.
The Gatling gun is central to the A-10's effectiveness and a clue as to its unusual moniker.
The A-10 is nicknamed the Warthog. generally because of its rather ungainly appearance. And I often think, too, that the gun sticking out of the nose looks a bit like a tusk, perhaps.
The A-10 is really unusual in that the aircraft was designed around a gun. And it fires projectiles really the size of your forearm. It can fire 3,900 rounds per minute in 2-second bursts.
If I'm aiming at a tank-sized target from a mile away and I shoot 200 rounds of 30 millimeter, I'll guarantee you that some of them are going to go through that tank.
Its main weapons are Maverick Whip missiles designed for use against tanks, carries Sidewinder missiles to protect itself in case it ran into enemy aircraft. It also carries iron bombs, 500 pounds, and also laser-guided bombs.
With America's top gun fighters like the F-15 Eagle dominating the skies, and tank busters like the A-10 clearing the way for ground troops, the US military was, by the end of the 20th century, the world's preeminent aerial power. So when hostilities broke out in the Persian Gulf in 1991, the US Air Force was about to show the world that it had the most lethal combat planes, or top guns and tank busters, on Earth. To reverse the annexation of Kuwait by Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein, American President George H.W. Bush formed a coalition that included Britain and France and initiated Operation Desert Storm. In the first Gulf War campaign, the coalition air force would fly over 100,000 sorties and drop over 88,500 tons of ordnance. Leading the charge were the formidable top guns and tank busters in the US arsenal, including F-15 Eagle fighters and A-10 Warthog ground attack planes.
The A-10 is normally employed as either a 2-ship or a 4-ship in formation. We learned that if you stayed at 10 to 15,000 feet in the air, that you were above the small arms and light AAA. With the precision-guided munitions, we can fly in the 15,000-foot neighborhood and see and employ against targets with a very lethal record.
The A-10's role was essentially anti-armor, in which it was extremely effective. It destroyed over 900 tanks, something like 1,200 other vehicles, and about 1,200 artillery pieces.
The A-10s provided critical support to the coalition ground forces that included the US and Britain. It enabled them to drive the Iraqi forces out of Kuwait in just 42 days.
The A-10 is obviously a plane that can put combat power on the bad guys.
The guys on the ground love it. They get into trouble and they call for the A-10 and they feel safe when that comes in.
Thanks to the way it was built, the tank-busting A-10 Warthog has proved to be practically indestructible.
It really was designed to be a flying tank. It's designed to take direct hits from surface-to-air missiles, to take direct hits from 23mm anti-aircraft cannons. There are no empty spaces in the wings or the fuselage. It's all filled with ballistic foam that absorbs any shrapnel that's going through from an explosion. The A-10 was designed with redundant systems all around. Has 2 vertical stabilizers, 2 rudders. You can lose one, the plane keeps flying. Has 2 widely separated engines, so one could get hit by a missile, the other engine will get you back.
Although introduced over 40 years ago in 1973, the A-10 tank buster still provides essential close air support for combat troops.
The pilot sits in a titanium bath, which is able to stop a lot of small arms fire, even up to something like a 37mm shell. So it's capable of withstanding a lot of fire.
Despite the introduction of 5th-generation fighters like the F-22, the robust and deadly A-10 tank buster is still integral to the US's global warfighting strategy today.
The A-10 has seen action in the Balkans, Libya, Afghanistan, the Second Gulf War as well. So it's been in every major conflict that the US has been involved in.
Another formidable frontline US Top Gun combat plane, primarily charged with providing air superiority, is the Rockwell B-1 Lancer.
This plane has the capability to carry up to 82 500-pound weapons or up to 24 2,000-pound weapons, or any combination thereof, just depending on how we load up our 3 internal bays.
Like the other top guns in the US arsenal, the B-1 bomber was conceived in the 1960s, first flew in the 1970s, and has been upgraded to play a pivotal role in America's modern warfighting strategy. The bomber is capable of dominating the skies and can provide a powerful punch in a ground attack and tank-busting role.
We have a bunch of different missions, primarily in the Middle East. We're running close air support operations in Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, supporting the troops on the ground there.
It was originally tasked with flying over the Soviet Union in the 1980s on nuclear deterrence detail. The B-1's first combat action came in Iraq on December the 16th, 1998, in Operation Desert Fox. Then the B-1 spearheaded the mission that was to punish Saddam Hussein in the belief he was concealing weapons of mass destruction. In the 4-day bombing campaign conducted by US and UK Air Forces, the B-1 struck dozens of targets across Iraq.
This plane has been used for deterrence in the Middle East operations. We've been hitting anything from buildings to individual persons or moving vehicles out there as well.
In the first 6 months of Operation Enduring Freedom in 2001, American B-1s dropped 40% of the total munitions on Al-Qaeda and Taliban targets. And in response to North Korea firing an intercontinental ballistic missile across the Pacific in 2017, the US flew 2 B-1 bombers along the border of North Korea as a show of strength.
We're there to deter the enemy, just to let them know that we are there.
One of the B-1 bomber's greatest assets is its ability to stay airborne. It holds up to 10,000 gallons of fuel and can fly for up to 5,900 miles. Refueling by air tankers, it can stay in the air indefinitely. As well as an unlimited range, the B-1 is capable of supersonic flight, giving the US military the ability to rapidly respond to any conflict anywhere in the world. Powered by 4 General Electric turbofan engines, the B-1 is able to climb to 60,000 feet and fly at supersonic speeds, approaching 1,000 miles per hour. And the B-1 is also well suited to flying low.
Being able to fly really fast down low and then be able to also fly fast up high as well is pretty unique.
The B-1 for a big bomber is exceptionally agile in the air, and that's due to its unique variable swept wing.
We're the only sweeping aircraft in the US inventory. Being able to push the wings forward gets me to be able to fly higher altitudes for our high altitude bomb drops, etc. And then when I need to go faster and then go lower, I can pull my wings back and then really execute the B-1 speed.
The world's superpowers are locked in an arms race to vie for dominance of the skies.
21st century air warfare is evolving rapidly. Surface-to-air missile systems are becoming far more capable. They can now hit aircraft that are even hundreds of miles away.
Competitor nations to NATO countries, particularly Russia and China, have spent 20 years plus developing a host of extremely effective surface-to-air missile systems.
The US has not stood idly by. In 2017, America introduced its latest and smartest air superiority and ground attack aircraft. the Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning.
In terms of operating within heavily defended airspace, the F-35 is certainly the most advanced strike aircraft as designed in the world.
It's really a multi-role fighter. So from an air-to-air standpoint, it can defeat anything in the air.
The latest fifth-generation combat plane has been designed to counter the new threats to American air supremacy posed by Russian and Chinese missiles. But it's not just missiles that the Americans fear. Its global competitors are now ready to field their own Top Gun and tank-busting fifth-generation fighters.
Other fifth-generation aircraft include upcoming Russian and Chinese designs, but to our knowledge, they don't have that same information fusion capabilities that the F-35 does.
The airplane talks to you, which is really nice for a pilot. So once we strap into the airplane, we even literally strap our helmet and plug our helmet into the airplane, almost like Avatar. So more than any other airplane I've ever flown, I feel like I become one with it.
One of the most remarkable features of the F-35 is the so-called magic helmet. And the F-35 has cameras essentially mounted over the airframe that allow the pilot to have a virtual view through the aircraft. So the pilot can essentially look down and see through the floor of the aircraft.
With his magic helmet, the F-35 pilot has a 360-degree view of the battlefield.
The F-35 is a dream to fly, and the most amazing thing about it is all the information that I get while I'm flying it. Total and complete situational awareness. For us, that's a fighter pilot's nirvana.
The F-35 Lightning is the latest strike fighter to assert dominance over the aerial battle space. It's smart, stealthy, and supersonic. Its powerful command and control abilities can direct fleets of fighter planes, as well as an ever-growing arsenal of unmanned aerial vehicles. But it remains untested in combat. When it comes to a fight in the skies, will this high-priced fighter come out the victor?
What's really amazing about the airplane is its ability to go into contested environments where no other airplane can do, gather information about ground forces, be able to find and track and target those. Other airplanes just can't do that.
The F-35 Lightning has a powerful 4-barrel 25mm cannon for ground attack missions. Like its fellow fifth-generation fighter, the F-22, the F-35 is designed to control an entire battlefield and can strike targets in the air and on the ground. The F-35 is protected by being virtually invisible to enemy radar.
The F-35 is shaped to limit the radar returns, so the energy that bounces back towards a hostile radar. All the surfaces in the aircraft, other than the leading edges and things which are angled, are quite subtly curved, so that any reflections will be broken up and dissipated.
Stealthy, supersonic, and smart means that America's tank-busting Top Gun, the F-35, is the most feared combat plane on Earth today.
It got an amazing sensor suite which enables the pilot to have a very, very good view of the threats that are around. So coupling those stealth features with the situational awareness to know where the threats are in real time can hopefully allow pilots to kind of navigate around threats, minimizing detection and allowing them to get close enough to attack if they do need to do so.
Able to spot an enemy up to 100 miles away, while being virtually invisible to radar, the F-35 could change the nature of aerial warfare.
It's not about getting on somebody's tail anymore. It's about detecting them, knowing where they are, and being able to shield yourself from their sensors. Being able to disguise yourself, but know where they are and get the jump on them.
But according to official records, the F-35 is untested in the crucible of combat. The American military put the F-35 through its paces during the US Air Force's annual testing and training exercise, known as Red Flag.
That's the most challenging and realistic air-to-air environment that we can create, if you like.
Every year, the US does a series of exercises over a couple of weeks, which involve simulating in the Nevada desert near Las Vegas as close as possible to modern Russian and Chinese threats, both on the ground and in the air.
The Red Flag battle simulations began in 1975 by the US Air Force in answer to the Navy's Top Gun training program. The US and its NATO partners participate in the exercises.
They bring in units from all over the US military, but also partner nations like the UK, Germany, Italy, and sometimes even from further afield. India, for example, has participated in Red Flags as well. It's a very huge multinational gathering.
Pitted against the world's leading combat planes, the results were emphatic.
The F-35 performed extremely well. It had a 15-to-1 kill ratio, so its overall impact was stunning.
In 2017, the US deployed the F-35 to the Middle East to support operations across the region.
The F-35 is currently entering operational service with the U.S. military, particularly the Air Force and the Marine Corps at present, as well as a variety of foreign partners.
The actual facts are still shrouded in mystery, but rumor has it that the F-35 has seen combat with one of America's allies.
There are reports that the Israelis have used the F-35 in a couple of strikes in Syria. I would suggest that the F-35 might have been involved in gathering intelligence data and surveilling.
Britain's Royal Navy has also purchased F-35s, adapted for its fleet.
The airplane that you see behind me is an A model. We have three variants, the A, the B, and the C. For the United Kingdom, we are making the B model variant, the replacement, if you will, for the Harrier. It's a short takeoff, vertical landing type airplane, but with many more capabilities above and beyond. From the outside, the A and the B model look very similar until we press a button. And then the B model opens up doors, twists an engine around, and becomes a hovering machine.
The rear nozzle of the aircraft actually will tilt down an entire 90 degrees and provide a column of hot engine exhaust that's going to lift the back end of the aircraft up. Using two very strong columns of air. One of the most remarkable things you'll notice is this giant door that pops open, and that's to feed that huge lift fan in the center of the aircraft.
Top it off with the fact that you can go from hovering to supersonic flight. You can't do that in a Harrier.
On something like the Harrier, the process of moving from vertical flight to high-speed level flight is a somewhat complicated process. With the F-35, the B model, it's much more foolproof.
At the heart of the F-35's power and versatility is its giant Pratt & Whitney single afterburning engine.
We generate over 40,000 pounds of thrust, the single largest production fighter engine in the world. And this engine sounds different than other engines. I'd call it distinctive. It has a throaty growl to it that you know when the F-35's in the airspace, it means business.
While the original Top Gun, the F-14, predominantly served in the American Navy, the F-35 will serve with US allies, including Britain, flying off the decks of its aircraft carriers.
Intelligent aircraft, that's the way to talk about this. And we have nearly 9 million lines of code running the software in this airplane to create that quantum leap in capability.
It's really about understanding the battle space around them and utilizing that information. That's what a pilot of the 21st century is all about.
The F-35 is able to hoover up tremendous amounts of information and pass it on. The F-35 can actually raise the effectiveness of what we call legacy fighters, like fourth-generation fighters. So it can steer information towards them. So if it identifies a threat, it can then prosecute that target.
The smart and stealthy F-35 promises to counter the evolving threats from digital and weapons technology developed by potential adversaries.
The next steps for the F-35 are really going to be the most exciting. As operations begin to unfold, as it's beginning to be deployed overseas, we're going to see entirely new ways of fighting an air war.
But the F-35 comes with very little room for weapons. So the question is, how are strikes going to be delivered in the future?
Internally, it can only accommodate 2 bombs and 2 missiles. So there have to be other aircraft that will carry those weapons. So some people are talking about using unmanned aircraft that will be weapons carriers, and these unmanned aircraft that will then fire the weapons towards the target selected by the F-35.
Theoretically, you could be controlling a whole swarm of UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, and maybe an arsenal ship dropping cruise missiles. Holy cow.
The F-35 and its 5th generation partner in arms, the F-22 Raptor, will be at the heart of tomorrow's US combat missions. They will, for the near future, be supported by the top guns and tank busters in the 4th generation US inventory, including the B-1 Lancer, the A-10 Warthog, and the F-15 Eagle.
The F-22, F-35 are kind of your new kids on the block. They have all the cool electronics, and they're like your Lamborghini, but the F-15 is more like your dad's 1968 Chevelle. Makes your heart hum, and it still gets the job done. That's why I love to fly the Eagle. It's definitely the only jet for me.
For over 50 years, the most powerful and advanced planes have ruled the aerial battlefield. 5th generation smart, stealthy and supersonic planes like the F-35 Lightning and the F-22 Raptor still dominate the skies. But the international arms race to develop the best combat planes is relentless. No matter who gains air superiority in tomorrow's military conflicts, top guns and tank busters will spearhead the wings of war.